Hey, this is my video that's going to give you some tips and tricks for a quick start to the new league in PoE 2 0.3, how to manage gear and economy at the start of a league in trade using things that I learned from SSF, some quick and dirty layout tips to get through acts 1 to 3 really quickly, and then the final part of the video is just me rambling a bit about what I'm going to start, some build ideas I've had, why I've picked Mercenary as my league start. I hope they help. I'm going to put some timestamps down in the description, so feel free to jump around if you want, take screenshots of the notes that I put up for the act layouts. Hopefully I'll see you on my channel either here or on Twitch, and I'll be streaming at least 12 hours a day, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I don't know if I'll league start Friday night. I'm in the UK and I'd rather get some sleep, I think, and start early on Saturday morning. But yeah, come hang out if this is useful, and I'll be posting a build guide sometime over the weekend once I figure out exactly what I'm running when we get the new tree tonight. All right, good luck. Plan on getting to maps by the end of Saturday, UK time. I don't know if I'm going to play Friday night. I think I'd rather wake up early on Saturday. Hopefully any queuing will be resolved by then. It's a free weekend, so there'll be a lot of people playing. I've been making a bunch of notes on layout tips for acts 1 to 3 based on my practice and what I learned from the Campaign Codex Discord. I have also put together some notes from everything I learned from doing the hardcore solo self-found project. And I think I learned a lot about leveling as SSF, which applies for the first couple of days of league start, right? You're going to struggle to buy gear from other players, so you're going to need to use SSF tactics in order to gear up as you go through and get to maps as quickly as possible, if that's your aim, right? If you've done campaign a bunch of times now, like I have, I think I've done campaign 20 times at least, you'd like to get to maps quicker. And also, I think this is going to be the first league where I really try hard to get to maps and get ahead of the curve and trade. League start is the only opportunity you have really to enjoy the trade lead experience. As most people find out, if you are slow, then you fall behind the curve. If what you want to do is buy expensive items, you need to be keeping pace with trade. Either that or resign yourself to very repetitive, boring grinds in endgame to generate currency, rather than just capitalizing on the early currency trade ratios for desirable currency. League start tips and tricks. First thing you want to do is, if you don't have one, create a character in standard and organize your stash tabs how you want them. So whenever you start a new league, your stash tabs will follow your standard layout. So I went and did this earlier today. So I have a currency tab, a couple of dump tabs, general dump tabs, one I've labeled for weapons, one I've labeled for uniques. I have the unique collection tab, but I don't like it. I find it, you can't put duplicates in it. Actually, I feel like I just want a affinity. Maybe if I get like a really good roll of unique, I'll put it in the collection tab. Skills, flasks, essences, delirium, ritual, socketables, tab for tablets, breach. Then I have a tab I've labeled good maps. As I get towards endgame, I like to keep all the maps that I actually want to run that are, juicy in a good maps tab, and everything else just goes in the normal maps tab. Expedition, and then unique collections. And then it'd be good if they start adding some more affinities. We didn't get any affinity updates this league. Go into standard, update your tabs. In terms of build planning, you want to have a good idea of where your skill gems and skill gem requirements are. So if I open up this, you can see all your support gems in PoE2DB.tw, and you can see here, like, obviously these are all going to get changed as soon as the database gets the new skill gems, but you'll see the tier, so you'll know when you can get it. They're changing the tiering system to be a 5-tier system. So each act 1, 2, 3, 4 in the interlude, will drop tiers 1 to 5 gems, which I think is a really good change. I hope that it's going to allow more options, because at the moment, acts 1 to 3, or acts 1 and 2 are tier 1, right? And a lot of the build enabling supports, so like Devastate, Exploit Weakness, a lot of the like auto reload, stuff like that are all level 2 at least, or level 3. So like Splinter is level 3, Armor Explosion is tier 2. So just hopefully now, maybe in Act 2, you can start doing Armor Explosions, which is part of the plan for my build. Have a general idea of your build, have a good idea of what supports you're going to prioritize. So if you're going grenades early, your first 2 support gems are going to go into Scatter Shot, and if it's Explosive Grenade, maybe Expedite, or if you don't care about the delay, you can go Magnified Effect. Have a plan as well for where you can get rewards that you need in terms of those support gems. Devourer gives you a support gem, Ariadne in a hut gives you flasks and I think a support gem. You get a skill gem from the Chaos boss in the Grellwood, things like that. Artificer's Orbs, runes. There's a couple of places you can get those. And I'm going to go through a layout guide after this with a couple of points of interest of note. Early game gearing and economy. You have to decide when you're leveling between selling gear or disenchanting it. This is what ended up working out the best for me. One, you should save all of your quality and socket gear so that you have access to whetstones, armor scraps, and Artificer's Orbs. Armor scraps aren't as important unless maybe you're playing like Energy Shield, but whetstones it's useful to have around for when you get an above the curve weapon, you can boost it even more with some blacksmith's whetstones. And so save your quality and socket gear until you get the blacksmith's tools, just dump them all in a dump tab and keep hold of them. Now ID scrolls are, I think they've improved the way they drop. I find everything I wanted to ID, I could, without needing to buy more, but you don't need to ID everything, right? So you want to be IDing things that might be useful for your build. If you don't have move speed on your boots, IDing any boots that drop that you can use. Maybe gloves, like I'm talking about magic here as well. Magic items, gloves are good to ID because they might have attack damage on them or attack speed. And then any slots that you're missing, right? Or if you have a bad item in there, maybe you can ID them if it's relevant to your build. Otherwise, ID rares, obviously, and uniques, and then I would recommend most of the time you're going to be selling your rares that you aren't using, because as nice as it is to have a few Regal Orbs, be able to upgrade a really good magic weapon, for instance, the chance of it hitting something good, pretty low. However, vendors, as you level up, will refresh with new rares and new good magic items, and you want to be able to buy them. And the only way to generate enough gold to be able to buy rares at the vendor is to be selling your rares. Also, if you're really stuck, once you get gambling, that's another opportunity. The end of Act 2 is an area where you're going to need a pretty good weapon if you don't want Jam-on-Ra to be a complete slog. Towards the end of Act 2, you want to be maybe gambling or buying good weapon bases so that you can craft them and try and get something good enough to take down the boss. If you find yourself, say, midway through Act 2, a rare from the vendor with a bunch of mods on it costs like 10k gold, I think. So if you have like 30k gold, you can probably start disenchanting rares at that point until you spend it. But otherwise, you want to be selling. If you find a unique that you can't use, just sell it. The chance shard fragment early game is not going to do anything for you, but you know they sell for at least 1,000 gold. Also, you can use your wisdom scrolls to identify jewelry and belts, and even if you don't use them, they sell for considerably more than armor and weapons. But yeah, otherwise you should be disenchanting your un-ID'd magic items. That'll give you the few transmutes that you need in order to be able to craft your gear. You want to be checking your vendors regularly. So if you're struggling on gear, if you don't have your move speed boots yet, or if you need a weapon, go back and check the vendors each time you level up. Otherwise, if you're all set for gear, don't waste the time. Just keep going and then check the vendors when you happen to go back to town anyway. General things you want to look for in the early game, mana rolls on gear is really good in the early game. You might find that you're struggling on mana no matter what build you're doing, but just a couple of mana rolls on gear and you'll find that your regen and total mana pool will be more than enough. Another good one is looking for attack damage and attack speed on gloves. Gloves are another source of damage. Rings, sometimes the magic vendor has decent rings, but they're quite expensive, so I wouldn't count on it. And then good weapons. At certain points, generally before the final act boss of each act, you're going to be able to get the highest tier of weapon for that level range. That's when you should be picking them up from the vendor if you don't have a good one, so that you can craft on the white bases. You should be looking for magic bases that have a good, like added damage roll or plus spells. Otherwise, save your gold. Maybe if there's some res you need, right? So cold res at the end of Act 1, it's good to look for. Lightning res at the end of Act 2. Also, sometimes you're going to want to look for fire res before the Morden Mine boss. She has a melee attack, which will one-shot you if you don't have enough fire res. And if you don't have enough move speed, you can't really avoid it. So you're just going to be doing that fight again and again. You have fire res or enough move speed to get out of her way. Once you get into early maps, I would suggest just running any tablets that you find that have a league mechanic you want to do on them, putting them in the tower. Don't need to be wasting your exalts to 6 mod a map. You're just going to be pathing around looking for your corrupted nexuses, cleansing the area, and then moving on to the next one. When you do cleanse an area, I would check each of the maps that have been cleansed for the Fury spawn. It's the unique boss that you can get as a mod on the maps. He always drops a fractured orb, so if you want to get some early fractured orbs, that's a good way to do that. Also, Doriani will sell you maps of the tier below of the latest one you've run. You should always be running boss maps with the highest tier that you have available so that you can get the next tier up. And I think Doriani sells 9 maps. If this was a tier 13, that's enough to get a T15 map, right? You can 3-to-1 your 9 maps and then 3-to-1 the ones that result. So you can also level up from Doriani. And now I have prepared a little presentation. Acts 1 to 3 fast. So these are just some tips for each zone. And as I go through these, you can pause the video and screenshot, but they're gonna tell you at a glance the quickest way to get through that zone and any points of interest you might want to pick up and where they might be in relation to the zone. So Act 1, starting zone, you follow the river upstream. You don't need to kill anything, just ignore all of the mobs, open the chests along the way, follow the river upstream and kill Hillock. That'll get you your first level up and into Clearfell encampment. So then you want to go into Clearfell and you want to wall hug around the zone. I tend to turn right. It depends on the layout of the map, right? But basically all of your points of interest are going to be on the outside of the zone. You want the abandoned camp because it gives you a skill gem. You want the Grellwood entrance checkpoint. Then you want to kill Beera because she's slightly easier, in my opinion, than Devourer, and she gives you your 10% cold resistance. And then you want to head down to the mud burrows, go in and kill the Devourer in the mud burrows itself. The Devourer will be on the other side of the map, opposite the entrance that you come in. You might get lucky and go past the hatchery. There'll be a blue pack there for some XP, but I wouldn't recommend getting lost looking for it. In the Grellwood, there are 4 points of interest, and I do them all at League Start because they're all rewarding in their own way. There is Ariadne's Hut, which gives you a support gem and 2 medium flasks. There is the Chaos Boss, which drops a skill gem. There is the point of interest that you need, which has the waypoint and the hooded one. And there is the entrance to the Grim Tangle. So what I tend to do now, I've run this a few times, all of 4 of the points of interest are in this like diamond shape. So let's say your entrance is here. Yeah, so you sort of run in. What I do now, really wall hug around the outside of the zone until I find the Red Veil entrance. And then from the Red Veil entrance, I head back to the entrance and hopefully I'll find one of the points of interest and then I can try and find the other 4 from there. That's the quickest way, I think. Red Veil itself is a cursed zone. I don't think there is a solution for how you find the obelisks. I will hug a direction and hope for the best. You can kind of spot the checkpoints that are near the obelisks or the like open areas, the obelisks at the corner of your map where it won't come up on your mini-map, but you might be able to see it before it comes up on your mini-map. You just have to hope that you get lucky. When you get to the Grim Tangle, generally the exit is going to be the opposite side of the map to how you came in. So you find the boss on the way, that's great. Otherwise I tend to skip it. I don't think it's that important to kill it. Then you get to the cemetery. The cemetery is another one that can spawn a really quick layout or a slow one. I tend to just wall hug around the map. Hopefully you find both of the tombs and also you'll get a free ring. It'll be a lazuli or a iron ring. So if you're an attack build, either is good. Then I tend to start with the consort tomb first. I don't know why, I just seem to find it a little bit easier. Boss in either of the tombs can spawn on the center or the edge in an opposite line to the other side of the map from the entrance. In the consort tomb, find that there'll be a point of interest, a dead end, which gives a support gem. And if you've gone that way, you've gone the wrong way. Kill the rare if you want to, right? It's Eternal Night, the ones that reflect all of your attacks and spells back at you. Otherwise, checkpoint back to the entrance and go the other way that you came and you should find the consort. Praetor Tomb is considerably more annoying in terms of the way it can lay out. It can be a bit of a dead end maze. So I would recommend like head straight away from the entrance and then like turn left or right, follow it round. If you find the treasure room, sometimes the boss will just be on the other side of the wall. However, there's no quick way around, right? You have to go back and sort of loop around and find a way to get back to the other side of that wall. It's just they're both just quite annoying areas. Hunting grounds though, it's pretty straightforward. You just wall hug around the zone, all of the points of interest, Crowbell, Freythorn entrance, rare mob, and the farmlands exit will be like spread around the outside of the map. You don't need to go in the middle at all. Just wall hug around. Careful you don't miss the Freythorn entrance. It can be sort of hidden behind like a small little passageway and it's quite easy to miss. I've missed it a few times. I normally just pop into Freythorn and get the waypoint and then come back later because it's quite a challenging area with all of the chaos damage. So I just come and do it when I'm a higher level, right? The spirit gem is probably not going to be a massive upgrade for you this early. So just come back and do it quickly later on so you can get through the zone as quick as possible. Farmlands. So you want to grab Una's loot is really important because it gives you skill points. You'll find Una's house will be in the second kind of like housing area in the farmlands, and the exit will be on the opposite side of the map from the entrance. You want to follow the road through the first housing area, then you'll probably get redirected into some farmlands, and then you want to get back onto like a housing type area with the straw huts as quick as you can, and then you'll find Una's house in that second area, in my experience. And then when you're heading to the exit, if you go past the ambush area, then you are heading the right way. Then we have Ogham Village. So the tools are in one of 3 places. They're going to be just on the way to your boss, they're going to be on the right hand side of the map, or on the bottom of the map. So I tend to just path across the map opposite to the entrance to get to the boss, and then if I haven't found the tools, I check right hand side and then go back to the entrance and check bottom. If you have Neversink's loot filter, as you get near to the smithing tools hut, the green item sound will play. There'll be like a bong, and that'll tell you that you're close. Then you got ramparts. So ramparts is pretty linear. Just follow the path of the map. It's either like a U shape or an S shape. There'll be a support gem on the way from the hanging corpse. You can grab that. You don't need to run up onto the platform. You can just click it from the floor and pick it up. And then you have the mana. So Candlemas always spawns on the first floor, and in my experience, always spawns after the first bridge. So you cross the bridge and then you can go and find Candlemas like along the edge of the map around there. And then on the second and third floors, you're just heading opposite the entrance to the other side of the map to get to Count Ogham. All right, Act 2. First zone, Asteri outskirts. Hug the wall in the direction that the town is leaning. So as you come out, when you've talked to Zaka and got your quest, you'll find that the town is kind of leaning either to the sort of the south or the north. Whichever way it's leaning, you want to hug the wall from there, and then you'll find a narrow passageway, and that'll lead to the boss arena. That's all you need to do here. Next zone is Morden Quarry. This follows like an S or a Z shape, and you want to be looking for the bridges that lead to each area. As you go through the bridge, it will lead to an area that opens up again, and you head to the opposite side of that area, and you'll probably find another bridge, like a little wooden bridge, and then that'll lead round to the lift that takes you down into the mine. The Morden mine itself is a pretty easy map. It's relatively linear. It's like a large diamond shape. The boss will often be on the opposite side of the entrance. Traitor's Passage can be quite challenging to solve the layout for. So there's an area that's called like the Six Sisters Staircase, which is quite recognizable. If you find that very close to the entrance, then Balbala will be, as you come up the stairs, you'll then have to like loop back towards the entrance a certain way, and you'll find Balbala there. Otherwise, when you find the lore book, you can look for yellow seals on the wall, and they will lead you to Balbala, and then the exit is just in the other direction from there. When you get the Sekima trial token from her, I wouldn't recommend running it straight away. I'd run it after Spires of Deshar, before I did Dreadnought, and then it took me like 10 minutes to do the trial, which is the ideal scenario. The Halani Gates is a very linear map, very easy, just follow it around. Then you have the 3 paths that you can choose: Keth, Badlands and the Bone Pit, and Valley of the Titans and the Grotto. So it's recommended to do Keth first, because that's where you get the skill points. In Keth, the main point of interest is the skill points from the boss, and she is always in the middle third of the map. And so in order to find out which bit is the middle third, so you can find her quickly, I would wall hug around until you find the exit, and then you'll see how big the map is, and then you go roughly halfway between the entrance and the exit, and you can just run up and down that segment, whichever orientation it is, and you'll find her. There is a guaranteed amulet drop in one of the tombs. There's 2 tombs. One doesn't have anything in it, and the other one has a chest with a guaranteed amulet in it. Then you head into the Lost City. So the key point of interest here is the guaranteed jewel from the rare scarab the first time you kill it. The exit is opposite the entrance, and then you won't be able to go through the middle of the map. There'll be a couple of V-shaped bridges on either side of the map that will allow you to get around the middle. And I would recommend in Keth as well, killing all of the monsters you come across, because you want to try and get the charm to drop for the quest in the Valley of the Titans. And then in the Buried Shrines, there are generally 2 ways that you enter. Either the entrance will be on the north side or the south side. If you enter from the north, then you want to wall hug south, and you'll hopefully find the elemental ring, which is really useful. So you probably want to take the lightning resistance ring for Gem-on-Ra. And then opposite that corner on the other side of the map, so if you continue like wall hugging, let's say you went south, continue like wall hugging the east side, you'll find the exit. Likewise, if you come in from the south wall hug to the north, you'll find the elemental ring, and then you wall hug the west side and you'll find the exit. And then you want to head to the Badlands. Can be a bit annoying. Generally, you just want to wall hug around the outside until you find the exit. Maybe you'll find the effigy on the way. The effigy chest has a sport gem in it. Bone pit. So generally the boss is opposite the bone arch that you walk through after you've come into the zone. So whichever direction you've come through the bone arch, just keep heading in that direction. Straight across the map, and you should find the boss. Valley of the Titans. So this one can be a bit hit or miss. You'll want to wall hug around the outside and hope that you find everything you need, but sometimes one or two of the things can spawn in the middle. So just wall hug around the outside of the map, the valley, and then if you haven't found everything you need, then look for some unexplored areas in the middle. Maybe just wall hug around the middle of the map, and then you should find the last things you need. Hopefully you've found your 2 charm things with the quest, so you don't have to come back here later. Once you get into the grotto, it can be a bit maze-like. I've definitely got turned around a few times running the wrong direction, but generally the boss is going to be on the opposite side of the map from the entrance. As you can see, there's a theme here. Most of the time you're just heading to the opposite corner of the map. If you find the point of interest, which is the big dagger in the ground, it'll drop a random rune. Finally, we have Deshar. So Deshar is another area where the exit will be opposite the entrance, and the map has a bunch of buildings in it. Inside the buildings are like magic packs, chests, things like that. On the outside of one of them are going to be your skill point corpse that you need to get the final letter from. Buildings are all in rows, so once you start finding the buildings, follow each of them in its row until you find the corpse, and then once you've done that, just keep heading to the outside exit. Path of Mourning, I don't know of a good solution for this. I generally just try and follow the stairs and hope for the best. So if I'm like moving from like room to room and I see some stairs that are going up or down, I just run up those. Fires of Deshar, another one, you're just heading opposite the entrance. The Sisters point of interest that gives you your lightning resistance, probably going to be closer to the boss than they are to the entrance. They can spawn in a bunch of different places though. So I would recommend heading as far away from the entrance as possible in the opposite direction, find the boss, and then if you haven't found the sisters, then backtrack from the boss and search around there to find them. Dreadnought is where I'd recommend going and doing your Trial of Sekimas. Do it really quickly and get your power upgrade. Then you can go and do Dreadnought, pretty linear. If you are low on XP and you want to generate a couple of levels before the boss, the final checkpoint in the first area of Dreadnought you can respawn at, and there should be magic packs that you can farm there. Act 3, so Sandswept, you want to head opposite the entrance and you'll get to the area with a bunch of trees. On like opposite sides of that area with the trees, you'll find the entrance to the camp, and then on the other side you'll find a campfire. You do want to go and do this point of interest because it gives you a guaranteed jeweler's orb. The Jungle Ruins is a massive map, giant square. The belt reward will be on the edge somewhere. The monkey is most likely to spawn in the final third of the map closest to the exit. Let's say if it was a big square, right, and you divide it into a 3x3 grid, those 3 squares nearest to the exit should have the monkey, but you can spawn in the middle as well. And then the Venom Crypts can spawn in any of 9 places in the map. So if it's split into a 3x3 grid, each one of those squares can spawn the Venom Crypt. So you may find yourself looking for that for a little bit. Venom Crypts can be annoying as well because the room that you need can be either on the edge or in the middle, I think. So here, instead of hugging the outside wall, hug the inside wall and hope for the best. In the Barrens, it's another map where everything you need is on the outside, so you want to be hugging the outside wall. Generally, I turn right and hug the outside wall there. You want to be finding the 2 exits, Azak Bog and Chimeral Wetlands, and the waypoint to come back later when you need to get into the waterways. The Azak Bog, again, like Freythorn, when I find the entrance, I pop in and grab the waypoint, and then I come back a bit later when I'm a bit stronger. Because it's such an area with such narrow walkways, having a bit more player power just makes it feel a bit better. I think the Azak Bog like spawns in the middle somewhere opposite the entrance now, the boss, but I'm not entirely sure. Chimeral Wetlands is another wall hug area. The 2 exits are generally opposite the entrance and they're opposite each other. So let's say you come in on the southeast side, the Trial of Chaos will normally be on the north side, and then the boss and the exit to Machinarium will be on the southwest. It's pretty easy. Head opposite the entrance and then find the 2 points of interest. Maybe you'll find the boss on the way. The Machinarium and Sanctums are both fairly linear map. The difficulty is the soul cores have random spawn locations. So, you know, when you come into Machinarium, the soul core could be to the south or to the north of you. Similarly, in the Sanctum, they can spawn on the outside of the map or they can spawn in the middle. To be honest, I think it's just a bit of luck in terms of whether you find them quickly. The waterways is very linear. You just follow the levers and the river. The Drowned City is a area where you need to follow the road. I find that both of the exits generally are after the ambush event. So you follow the road until you get to the ambush, go through there, you get ambushed by a bunch of leapers, and then the road should fork, you know, like left and right. One direction will take you to the Molten Vault, and the other direction will take you to the Apex of Filth. Vault is another area that I grab the waypoint, and then I come back later. Mostly because the boss can be really tough if you're underpowered because of the mechanic of him like jumping back into the lava and it being a timed boss. If you're underpowered, then it can be very frustrating. So just come back later. You don't need the 3-to-1 straight away. Apex of Filth, they made this area considerably less confusing. So I think the way it works now is you sort of come in and there's a pretty clear path to where you want to go. And then you get to this area that kind of opens out and there's some like little stairs and like a wide stone platform type thing. That is where then the map splits off one corner opposite those stairs. So let's say you like come in and like if you're looking at the stairs, like to your left will be a corner and to your right will be a corner of the map. On one of those corners should be the Cauldron Lady, who is a useful vendor. Also, you can get your superior flasks if you get the 3 mushrooms, and then on the other side will be the boss. It can be a tough boss. This zone, for instance, if you're playing Shockburst rounds, tier 11, that's where you can start getting your tier 11 skill gems if you need that for your build. And they'll probably help because the boss can be very difficult. She hits really, really hard. Then you head into the Temple of Kopek. The exits are in the corner. It's a triangle-shaped map. The first floor, I don't know, there's a theory that the exit spawns when you find the third corner, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I found it on my first try before. And then on the second floor, the exit is probably on the other side of the rift. If you have a leap ability, you can leap over the rift. Fire resistance is very useful here. Even if you have fire resistance though, be careful on the boss. His machine gun attack can still kill you very quickly, as I found out in hardcore. Then you get to Utsal. You know, once you've gone back in time, here you want to follow the road. The road will lead you to where you need to go. Always find your way back to the road and you'll find the Viper. Agarat is another map where the exit is opposite to the entrance. You go through the first area, there's the guy talking to his loyal followers. And then after that, there'll be the area with all of the blood sacrifice stuff happening. And the sacrifice will normally be on the top right. So as you come into that second part of the Agarat area, turn right and head to the edge of the map and you should find the sacrifice. Again, if you have the never sink loot filter, it'll make the green item sound when you get close. Then you head into the black chambers, go and find Doriani, and Doriani will be opposite the entrance. So just keep heading away from the entrance and you'll find him. And that's Act 1 to 3. This is going to be my quick reference guide for when I do my league start. Obviously, we don't know how long Act 4 is going to take, but I think with these tips, and I'll just run through them again in full screen mode. So you want to take a screenshot, there you go. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Now I'm going to talk about build ideas. So what can we do for League start? So I'm going to start Mercenary, and that Mercenary will be a Witch Hunter. So I think I'm starting Merc for a few reasons. One is I want to play crossbows. No matter what I do, I'm going to play crossbows in some form or another. And I would like to start in this part of the tree. And I just think that Mercenary for the new league looks really versatile. So it's in a really good position starting out for crossbows to go either to the left of the tree for fire and melee and armor stuff, or to the right for ranged, for spears, heading up into spells. And I'm bored of Deadeye. I've rolled so many Deadeyes, so many Rangers. I want to go back to playing to the class that has the best voice lines and aesthetic. And I think for leveling, at least, Witch Hunter has the most utility. So Zealous Inquisition is getting buffed. Also, pretty sure that Abyss monsters are going to be demons or undead. They're going to be one of those two things, right? So it's being buffed to 15% chance to explode, and that's doubled against undead and demons, so 30% chance to explode, which is really good for clear. Then for bossing, I did put on Culling Strike, but actually I think Witchbane is better for bossing because it slows down how many times they use their abilities. So it just makes harder bosses a bit easier. So if you're fighting Jamon-Ra, he's just going to use his abilities way less. And then, yeah, I think the 100 passive skill set points that they're adding in, this has cooldown recovery now. It's just really interesting for a build making perspective. And I'm going to talk through a few of my ideas about various mercenary build ideas. They're just going to be rough ideas. We don't know what extra notables we're getting. We don't know, what some of the what more of the balance changes are going to be. So we'll see. But generally, I think I've got some ideas that are pretty cool that I want to try. Also, I think they've buffed banners considerably. But we'll have to see. I'm going to test it, but we'll have to see how hard it is to generate the 200 glory you need to cast it for like an 8-second buff. But the war banner now has much more attack damage, much more attack speed. It's only a 30 spirit reservation. So we'll see. It might be worth dropping. And if you end up playing Tactician, you can drop like all of the banners. I don't know if that would be worth it though. And I think defense-wise, makes more sense to lean into the evasion and deflect side of the hybrid than it does to lean into armor and elemental damage reduction. Just because you're not really going to be getting enough armor to make any considerable dent into the damage reduction. You can get some you can get leather-bound gauntlets if you want, if you get like a really thick pair of armor gloves. You get all that evasion rating, and then lean into deflect, I think, is going to be the route. So possible endgame builds. So I think one of the ideas is Tactician Frostfire. So that's leveraging the Tactician's ability to build up Immobilize. So the change that's been made to Tactician is that instead of pin build up, now it's Immobilize build up. So let's bring up the early access. Let's go to the patch notes for ascendancy changes. Yeah, suppressing fire now has more immobilization. So freeze counts as an immobilization. And so the idea here would be to use freeze skills and then use the Frostfire support gem, which allowed you to consume freeze for ignite. So you freeze your targets with like permafrost or something like that, and then you hit them with an incendiary shot, which has been buffed on its own, and then that gets another 100% more magnitude. So for Giga freeze and Giga ignites, then you have Tactician. Yeah, so that's one of the ideas for that. The next idea I have, I'm just going to put this in the presentation. Do a new slide. Build ideas. Sorry for the basic stuff. So, Tactician, Frostfire. There we go. The next idea is Frost Explode Crossbow. So pretty simple. I think you can go Witch Hunter for this. Is you freeze enemies and you blow them up with frag rounds. This could also be a viable leveling strategy. I think leveling wise, I'm just going to go with whatever's feeling good. So I would like to level with armor break, high velocity rounds, and frag. Just because I like the idea of that, and then maybe get some fire damage in there and lean into we've seen one new notable already that fire damage can take advantage of armor break. So you could also do armor break with incendiary shot and high velocity rounds. But anyway, or it could just be that with the buff to freeze amount on permafrost, it'll feel a lot better for freezing packs and then blowing them up with frag rounds. And frag rounds now chains as well, to other frozen enemies in the pack. So it might feel really good for early game clearing. The next crazy build, which I think might be cool, is a Witch Hunter spell and crossbow. So with the 100 passive points, you could create a basic skeleton that kind of takes you like around here, maybe to this dual node, or you can come down here and then come up here maybe, and then you can use like the 80 or so points you have left to path up to all of the spell and curse nodes. So you can either do a weapon swap. So instead of doing frag rounds, you could like freeze all your enemies and then snap them, or vice versa, right? If you don't want to keep swapping ammo types, because I think swapping between 2 shotgun ammo types might be annoying still because of the reload delays, you could use something like Ice Nova to freeze all of the enemies and then frag rounds to blow them up. And then you can use like all of the curse nodes. Where are they? Like stuff like, no, that's chaos skills. Where are the curse nodes? Oh, I can't find any of them. Search. Yeah, you got like curse magnitude and activation here. You got area of effect of curses here. Duration and magnitude. Duration and magnitude. You could do, there's a +1 curse notable, right? So you could do some cool stuff with spells and curses as your weapon swap with your 100 extra points. The next one is the one I just talked about, and the one I was really most excited about playing, just because I've not really played with it before. It's a pure crossbow, maybe flash grenades, armor break, plus fire damage, right? And that allows you to lean into where you are on the tree to get the fire damage stuff from the bottom left, and all of the crossbow and grenade nodes around Witch Hunter. I think that might be cool. So you can break their armor with like flash grenade and heavy stun and devastate and stuff like that. Hit them with a HVR and then either incendiary shot or frag rounds to do a bunch of damage. Then there's another weapon swap build. We have with mace and crossbow, and you could do like an ignite based build. You get access with the melee side of the tree. You get endurance charges if you want to use them. You could use Ancestral Cry and get the nodes that boost war cries in that area of the tree. You get access to rage generation for more damage. And then you can use stuff like, Flash Grenade, Hammer of the Gods, maybe. I don't know if the stun time on Flash Grenade is enough to get the Hammer of the Gods off, but it's an idea. And then you also have access to Leap Slam if you're using Mace. Or if you're using Mace and a shield, you also get Shield Charge, stuff like that. You could play around with it. You could also do the melee skill plus projectile combos you have like around the southeast of the tree where like Huntress is, which is an interesting idea as well. So what is it? You get like projectiles fork if you have done a melee attack, like something like that. Strike range if you've dealt a projectile. Projectiles have a chance to fork if you don't let me hit. I don't know if any of this stuff is any good. There aren't many. You could like stun with your melee damage, right? You do stun build up and then do stuff like that. But yeah. Or you can just, grab a bunch of melee skills and warcry stuff over here. But yeah, that might be a cool idea. I just really want to use Ancestral Cry because it looks really sick. Another idea is to do Fire and Lightning. So one of the ideas I have, Thunderous Leap, is a detonation skill. So you could do grenades and then Thunderous Leap to detonate them, which it might suck, but it will look really sick. And with instant weapon swap, you can fire off your explosive grenades and then immediately Thunderous Leap into the pack. Having a spear and shield also gives you access to rage generation through melee attacks, and spears attack significantly faster than maces, so that might be a quick way to generate a lot of rage really quickly. Also, you could do something like Elemental Sundering, So you could do like ailment combinations. You could like ignite all of your enemies with incendiary shot or something like that, and then elemental sundering them, or you could freeze them and do elemental sundering. I just think there's a really cool design space you can have with spears and crossbows, or grenades and spears. And you could also, if you want to, for your weapon swap, just go and pick up all the move speed stuff on Deadeye for your spears, like in the ranger area. So yeah, that's one that might be cool to try out. And the last one is totem weapon swap. So this is probably a tactician build because you get the auras from the totems. I don't know if the auras stack from the same totem, so you could get like 3 mortar cannons, which possibly each of them give you 15% damage as extra fire. I hope they stack. That'd be really cool. So that's 45% damage as extra fire. And then you could use explosive shot as your detonator. So you can just have your mortars firing off. And then, yeah. Get the damage bonus. Smash things with explosive shot. Maybe you switch out the grenade to something else for bossing. But yeah. I think I'm still leaning towards Witch Hunter just because, one, it's really versatile for leveling. And then even in the end game, I think the 100 passive points is just like a really interesting design space for builds that we can do some really cool stuff with either mace and crossbow, spears and crossbow, or spells and crossbow. And a spell crossbow Witch Hunter is also very flavorful. I don't really have any ideas for gemling yet. I'm not really sure what to do with gemling. I haven't really thought about it in great deal. It's just, it's all... Yeah, genuinely Legionnaire. Right, we've got the new thing here. Where is it? Instead of advanced thaumaturgy, right, we have that balancing ability. For each skill color socketed gem that is most numerous, gain one of these, right? And there's a lot of questions about whether or not this is going to be balanceable in the sense of, if you balance all 3, do you get all of them or none of them? Because either they're all the most numerous or none of them are the most numerous. Could you get 2 of them because it says 4 each? So maybe you could get 2 out of 3 because then you have 2 that are the most numerous and 1 that isn't. We'll have to see. I will let someone else test that, I think. And then there's like a charge generation thing you can do, but 8 seconds is a really long time per charge. We'll have to see. Maybe you could do one where, you know, you kind of balance. I don't know if you could actually balance these. The higher total strength requirement. Yeah, that'd be really difficult to balance. But you could do one where you're like consuming endurance charges. Who knows? I think the more interesting design spaces are, you know, the tactician, like either mortar cannon, totem stuff, or the like immobilized frostfire stuff, and then Witch Hunter with its 100 new passive skill points, which is really cool. So those are my ideas. Don't know what I'm going to play yet. I'm probably going to be leveling either like Frost Explode or Grenades. Probably not Armor Break unless they bring the level requirement down for things like Armor Explosion and Splinter. I think Armor Break early on is a bit of a trap. I think it's better off to go for something that has better pack clearing with a bit of single target. So I don't know. It's probably going to be Grenades, right? Grenades are pretty reliable. But I just think also crossbows will feel just enough better to level with the no movement speed penalties on changing weapon ammo types and reloading, and a bit more acceleration out of the end of shooting animations. So we'll see. So that's my ideas.